One thing I want to do really quickly before we go too deep also is I want to talk a little bit about the history. And this is, I'm just going to jump to Wikipedia because it's 2,000 years old. So we're not going to try to do an exhaustive history of acupuncture, but there were just a few things that I found that were interesting. And first of all, the fact being that it's 2,000 years old, I knew it was really old. But I'm just going to run through a few things here to sort of contextualize the rest of the conversation. So again, this is per Wikipedia. Acupuncture is one of the oldest practices of traditional Chinese medicine. Most historians believe the practice began in China. Acupuncture is believed to have originated around 100 BC, around the time the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine was published, and that's a medical book. Acupuncture fluctuated in popularity in China due to changes in the country's political leadership and the preferential use of rationalism or Western medicine. By the end of the Song dynasty, so that's 1279, acupuncture had lost much of its status in China. It became rarer in the following centuries. By the 18th century, speeding up quite a bit, scientific rationality was becoming more popular than traditional beliefs. In 1822, the Chinese emperor signed a decree excluding the practice of acupuncture from the Imperial Medical Institute. He said it was unfit for practice by gentlemen scholars, which is kind of funny. It was restored for a time, acupuncture, but then it was banned again in 1929 in favor of science-based Western medicine. Although acupuncture declined in China during that time, it was growing in popularity in other countries, which is interesting. Acupuncture first spread to Korea in the 6th century AD, then to Japan through medical missionaries, and then to Europe, beginning with France. France was an early adopter among the West due to the influence of Jesuit missionaries who brought the practice to French clinics in the 16th century. By the 19th century, acupuncture had become commonplace in many areas of the world. Americans and Britons began showing interest in acupuncture in the early 19th century, but interest waned by mid-century. In China, going back to China, the popularity of acupuncture rebounded in 1949 when Mao Zedong took power and sought to unite China behind traditional cultural values. It was also during this time that many Eastern medical practices were consolidated under the term traditional Chinese medicine. Acupuncture research organizations were founded in the 1950s, and acupuncture services became available in modern hospitals. And this is still in China. Meanwhile, back in the USA, the U.S. Congress created the Office of Alternative Medicine in 1992, and the National Institutes of Health, or NIH, declared support for acupuncture for some conditions in November of 1997. In 1999, the National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine was created within the NIH. Acupuncture became the most popular alternative medicine in the U.S. So a couple reasons I wanted to go through all that, again, one, just for context, but two, I thought it was really interesting that acupuncture hasn't always been accepted in China, because it's come and gone, it's come and gone out of favor depending on who was in power and depending on other alternatives presented at the time. So that was one thing that was interesting, because I would have just always assumed that's part of their culture and it's something that they've always treasured, and it sounds like it's kind of come and gone. But then the other thing that surprised me was that its use in the West goes back way further than I expected. I was assuming this was a relatively recent arrival, but they're saying it came to France, I think, what did I say, the 1600s or the 16th century, something. So anyway, I just thought that was really interesting. Any thoughts on any of that?
Well, I know that during the Cultural Revolution, that they needed more doctors out in the countrysides, and this whole idea of the barefoot doctor who used the traditional methods because they didn't have any other way to treat people, and so that became that really more brought the traditional ways back into being. But traditionally also it wasn't a consolidated one way to treat everyone. It was almost like a lineage of each family, focusing on a particular thing. There were these kind of, so-and-so, was good at treating eyes. And so you'd go and that father would pass down to the children the techniques and the knowledge. So it had all of these assorted branches to it, and was diffuse. And after I think it was either as a result or in the context of the Cultural Revolution that they did then formulate this one systematized medicine, which we call traditional Chinese medicine.